Hey guys, I'm Valiant. Today we're going to be talking about my Stormclaw build. So initially I wanted to make a pure Stormclaw build with Earthen Bulwark just being a defensive spell. But when the patch came out and Temerity was fixed, barrier generation was changed as well. So now all Druid builds should be using Earthen Bulwark. The way they changed barrier was it affected the damage of your Earthen Bulwark. The more barrier generation you had, the more damage it would do. But now the barrier generation does multiple things. It now will increase the barrier from your Earthen Bulwark. Depending on how much barrier generation you have, it could now match your base life instead of just doing a percentage of it. I will go over this in more detail later on in the video. So the first ability that we are going to be using is Blood Howl. Kills reduce the cooldown on Blood Howl by 1 second. It also increases your attack speed by 15% for 4 seconds, and it heals you for 26% of your maximum life. Everything in this build revolves around attack speed. The faster we attack, the faster we will proc our defensive and our symbiotic aspect. Our next ability is Hurricane. Hurricane's a defensive, offensive. It does everything for the build. It helps with AoE. It stacks your disobedience buff. Enemies who are damaged by Hurricane are slowed by 25%. Enemies affected by Hurricane deal 20% less damage. It will also help our proc rate with Overload and symbiotic aspect. Our next ability is Earthen Bulwark. This is the main way we stay alive. It has a cooldown of 16 seconds, but the way the build works is that we're going to be proccing symbiotic aspect, and we're going to keep this up at all times. We also use it for extra damage because we're using Shrapnel, and it makes you unstoppable. We will be using an aspect to improve this. And for our ultimate, we are using Cataclysm. This helps with everything that I mentioned before. The main reason we are using Cataclysm is it has a duration of 14 seconds. We use this for our Inexorable Heart. This is the way we pull everything into us, and it helps with the AoE damage as well. Our basic attack is going to be Claw. It's going to apply Storm Strike as well. Claw's attack speed is increased by 15%, and Claw has 15% chance to attack twice. Our last ability is going to be Cyclone Armor. We mainly use this more as a passive for the damage reduction, but we can use the active for a knockback or interrupt as well. Barrier generation used to buff the damage of your Earthen Bulwark, but after the Temerity fix, it now increases the barrier that you receive from Earthen Bulwark as well. So the spell Earthen Bulwark gives you a shield based on the percentage of your base life. It goes up to 63%, but with the change to barrier generation, you could get it to match your maximum life. So at the moment, I have 12k life, and my Earthen Bulwark gives me a 63% shield of my base life, which is almost 5,000. But with the barrier generation I have on, it actually gives me a shield closer to 7,000. So with plus skills to Earthen Bulwark and more barrier generation, I can increase it to match my life instead of just being a percentage of it. And this is why we're not using rubies anymore, because rubies just give you maximum life, but barrier generation is going to give you damage to your Earthen Bulwark and survivability. It's far superior at the moment, and we don't know if this change is permanent or if it's just a mistake. But for now, it should be a part of all Druid builds, and this is the first major change to the build. The aspect for your helm would be Might. The stats that we are looking for would be attack speed, percent total armor, barrier generation, and cooldown reduction. The only other stat option would be maximum life. For our chest armor, we are looking for the Mending Stone aspect. The stats you should be looking for would be percent total armor, damage reduction from close, and +3 to Earthen Bulwark. Other options would be damage reduction from poison or fortify, also maximum life. For our gloves, we're going to be using the symbiotic aspect. Instead of lucky hit chance, you can also get critical strike damage with lightning or earth. For our pants, we are going to be using disobedience aspect. There's not a lot of ways to get armor in the game, and it's definitely the most useful defensive stat at the moment. Other options for stats would be damage reduction from fortify, maximum life. For our boots, we are going to be using the Ghostwalker aspect, while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after. You gain up to 25% increased movement speed and can move freely through enemies. This is like a flat movement speed buff because we're going to be unstoppable almost all the time. For our weapon, we are going to be using the Great Staff of Crone. This build is usable without it, but I would highly suggest waiting. Kind of ties everything together. It makes Claw a storm skill, and it gives us access to our vulnerability debuff. For our amulet, we are going to be using the rapid aspect. This gives you up to 45% increased attack speed for basic skills. Other stats you could be looking for would be total armor or any form of damage reduction. On our rings, we are going to be using the conceited aspect and the overcharged aspect. Conceited gives you 25% increased damage while you have a barrier. We will pretty much always have a barrier up. And overcharge gives us a chance when dealing lightning damage to spread the damage among the enemies. Other stats we could be looking for would be lucky hit chance or maximum life. And then for our Malignant Hearts, we are currently using the Caged Heart of Revenge. This now suppresses damage instead of flat damage reduction, so this is something that I need to test out changes. And then next we are going to be using the Barber Heart. With the changes made, it is now viable for this build. I'm currently using a lower duration on the Absorb. I'm going to test out different ones and see if the duration matters at all. Then for our last chart, we are using the Gauge chart of Inexorable Force. This is the one where your ultimates will pull enemies towards you. This and the Barber Heart are mandatory for the build. For our Spirit Bones, we are going to be taking Awareness. You take 10% reduced damage from elites. Next, we are going to be taking Swooping Attacks. You gain 10% increased attack speed. Do not change this. We need attack speed. Then we are using Bolster. You fortify for 15% of your maximum life when you use a defensive skill. We will be spamming defensive skills. This will keep our fortify maxed out. Calamity would be another good option. Then we are taking Masochistic. Lucky hit, critical strikes with shape-shifting skills have up to a 75% chance to heal you for 3% of your maximum life. And then we are using Overload. Dealing lightning damage has up to a 40% chance to cause the target to emit a static discharge, dealing 25% lightning damage to the surrounding enemies. This was buffed from 20% to 40%, and since Claw always applies Storm Strike, we are always applying lightning damage. For our skill tree, we are going to be putting 5 points into Claw, 1 point into Enhanced Claw, and 1 point into Wild Claw, and then 5 points into Storm Strike, 1 point in Enhanced Storm Strike, and Fierce Storm Strike. In the core skill tree, we are taking 3 points into Predatory Instinct and 3 points into Digigrade Gate. In the defensive skill tree, we are going to be putting 5 points in Earthen Bulwark, 1 point in Enhanced, and 1 point in Innate Earthen Bulwark, 1 point into Cyclone Armor, Enhanced, and Preserving Cyclone Armor, 1 point into Blood Howl, Enhanced, and Preserving Blood Howl, and then 1 point into Ancestral Fortitude and 3 points into Vigilance. In the companion tree, we are not taking anything. In the Wrath skill tree, we are going to be putting 1 point into Elemental Exposure and 3 points into Endless Tempest. This is to increase our Hurricane and our Cataclysm duration. 1 point into Hurricane, 1 point into Enhanced Hurricane, and 1 point into Savage Hurricane. And then 1 point into Neurotoxin, 1 point into Toxic Claws, and 3 points into Envenom. In the ultimate skill tree, we are going to be taking 1 point into Defiance, 3 points into Natural Disaster, and 1 point into Resonance, 1 point into Cataclysm, and then 1 point into Prime Cataclysm, 1 point into Defensive Posture. And for our key passive, we are going to be taking Nature's Fury. This combined with Symbiotic Aspect will make the whole build work. This will allow us to have a continuous Earthen Bulwark on. And also, we have a 30% chance to cast a skill of the opposite type. So basically, when we cast Cataclysm, we have a 30% chance to cast Petrify as well. This goes for all our skills.
Take it back from them. Let it end.
So for the Paragon board, most of it's the same besides one board. We are going to be going up to the left this time, getting the life and armor. And our first glyph is going to be Spirit. Critical strikes increase the damage an enemy takes from you by 2% for 20 seconds up to 12%. Then on the way out, we're going to take Impel for increased damage. Our next board is going to be Thunderstruck, and we will be taking the Legendary node. This board is the same as the last time. Our glyph's going to be Fang and Claw. While in Werewolf or Werebear form, close enemies take 12% increased damage from you. So this is where the major change in the build is. We are no longer filling out the Lust for Carnage board, and we're going to be taking Inner Beast as a third board. And for our glyph, we are going to be using Keeper. Gives it an extra 250 armor. And on top of that, you and your companions deal 10% increased non-physical damage. So our lightning and earth damage both get buffed from this. And this is where we're going to stack all our armor. We're going to grab every armor node in this tree. Then we're going to go up to the Lust for Carnage board, and all we're going to be taking is the attack speed up here. Our next board is going to be the Constricting Tendrils board. It's going to be the same. We take the glyph Earth and Sky, and we take all the rare nodes near it as well to buff our life and damage. The next board is going to be Ancestral Guidance. We are still picking up the basic skill damage, and our glyph is going to be Territorial. You gain 10% damage reduction against close enemies. And then our final board is going to be Height Malice. We're going to take the Legendary node and some life nodes here. You should have this board at all times while leveling. It's too strong not to have in your build, but always have it be the last board you get. I know that's kind of confusing, but always keep 13 Paragon points for Height and Malice. So whenever you are able to get a new board, take all your points out of Height and Malice, get that board, and then put Height and Malice back on. This is because we only take one rare node here, and we're not going to be able to get the requirements for it either way. We do all the boards in this order so we can max out the attack speed from our 4th board, Lust for Carnage. The build planner in the description will have a min-maxed Paragon board, where I saved a couple points by placing the boards differently. If you guys have any comments or feedback, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all the support. I'll see you next time.